Hey everyone, welcome back to Hammerstone TV. Thank you so much for watching parts 1 and 2 of my interview with Charles Ruggiero. This is the conclusion of that interview. Stick around to the very end because Charles is going to perform an awesome drum solo for us and I think you'll like it. Thank you so much for watching.
It's so hard to survive. Every single fucking day.
Because good time comes from playing with a good feel. Like the same, if you're playing boom, bop, boom, bop. That's not easy to do, to keep that steady. But you go.
Yeah, then the
subdivisions. You add the subdivisions, and now it becomes way easier.
You're kind of breaking it into smaller pieces.
Yeah, you're breaking it into smaller, more manageable pieces.
Right.
You don't need a fucking half a steak at once. You cut it into small, manageable pieces. Yeah. See what I mean about like it? Yeah. These things in the universe inform us. If you know you're going boom, bop, boom, bop, like there's a rhythm to that. You know, there's a rhythm there. So if you get into the rhythm of that, that's no different than getting into your 16th notes. It's the same exact thing. So playing with good feel informs playing with good time. And then you don't really have to worry about, am I with the click or bing, you know what I mean? Then you can kind of have some fun with it. You know what I mean?
You can just really feel it instead of having to, hear that thing clicking away in your head and having to follow it. You're more creating.
Yes, you're playing with it rather than it's becoming a member of the band.
Right.
You know what I mean? It becomes just like, oh man, you're just right there where the cowbell should be. You know what I mean? I like a click to be cowbell sound.
Yeah.
Because then it feels like it's in there with you. It feels like Ralph McDonald is over there with the fucking. Yeah.
I have to read the list.
Okay.
Holy
shit! I don't know what this list is going to be.
And well, it's a list of all the people that you've played with, and I'm going to end it with
a long list.
Yeah, well, and it's not a complete list. I'm sure it's what I could dig up on you on the internet. Okay, the interwebs. Frank Basile,
yeah.
Frank Basile, Peter Burstein.
Yep.
Jane Monheit.
We've done some things together.
Okay.
Yes.
Brad Meldau. Larry Goldings.
Yep.
Chris Potter. Eric Reed. Javon Jackson.
Yep.
Bob Reynolds. Sarah Alt. I remember the sticker on the door.
Yes.
Geezer.
Fucking great band.
Abby, is it Jeanette or Gannett?
Well, that band was Slunt.
That was Slunt.
Yeah, Abby was the lead singer in the band Slunt.
Okay. Circus Diablo. Pizza or Anal.
No, that's Slunt.
So the last guy on the list, and I'll hum a little bit of the melody, because this is somebody that my parents listened to.
Oh yeah.
Growing up. Tell me about playing with fucking Chuck Mangione. And was Gad part of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was
Tell me about that experience.
It's funny because a lot of people that you named. It's funny now to me that I was playing with those guys like Bernstein and Goldings and Meldau, and Chris Potter, Chris actually did some gigs with Chuck, actually. But, I was playing with a lot of those guys, when I got the call to play with Chuck. And we were all, young kids. And a couple of those guys that were already, their stars were rising. But it was Chuck Mangione was on the cover of Time Magazine. I mean, he was a fucking star, He
was huge.
So, it's so funny to me that, now people are much more impressed that I played with Brad Meldau or Chris Potter or Peter Bernstein or Larry Goldings than with Chuck. And at the time, I remember, I left that crew to go be with Chuck. And then that crew went on to be who they are. And I've had a great career. I'm not saying that, but it's just funny to me that
I was slumming it with Chuck.
In a way, now it seems that way in a sense. Obviously that experience was amazing and all that. But yeah, so I started playing with Chuck in the in the early '90s, 93 I think it was, and the first my father played with him, and my father was an incredible drummer. I mean, he was a legendary guy. And Chuck hated him. Like they did not get along. Like he would fire my dad every night and then hire him back every day because he was the baddest motherfucker. And so when he was looking for a new band, he actually called my music teacher, Justin DiCioccio, and was like, "Hey, Justin, I need a fucking band, hot young band. I'm making my comeback." And Justin was like, "Well, you gotta call Vinny's kid, Charles." And he's like, "There's no fucking way I'm ever gonna fucking have that motherfucking kid. I'll never work with Ruggiero again." And I guess from what I heard is he auditioned 70 drummers. I doubt that. I can't believe he
I couldn't find one.
Yeah, I mean, I just find that very difficult to believe. But that's what I heard. And then he finally was like, "All right, I'll hear Charles," and he hired me. We played, and he was into it, and so. And he was cool. He was cool in his way at times, and then he wasn't also to me at other times. And he was very hard on me.
Was he a pretty demanding band leader?
Yeah. He was like not nice to me a lot of the time. And I don't harbor any bad feelings about it. But the reality is he was bad to me a lot of the time. I think that has value to the next generation. Like having to deal with a difficult band leader is something that they should fucking teach you somewhere.
Right.
How to deal with someone who's being like that to you. Right. And so I'm open about that. Not as a diss against Chuck. He was a fucking superstar, and that shit can that can mess with a person. Right. And he was the biggest thing in music for a long time. I don't harbor any bad feelings about him, but I do feel like it's important to be honest about it. I'm not going to sugarcoat what happened. So he hired me, and he was like, and I thought I was hot shit because my dad was a great fucking drummer, and everyone in my hometown knew that he was one of the greats, and so and I was pretty good. I was better than your average 14-year-old. So everyone, "Oh my God, you're so great," and I'm like a dummy. I believed him. Because no one really told me not to. No one said to me be humble. Yeah, man. Hey, check it out. Just because you're good at this doesn't fucking mean anything. There's tons of great people out there. You're just one of many. Right. And especially nowadays when it's when we were growing up, there wasn't this many good drummers. I look on YouTube now and I'm like, there's a 13-year-old girl just smashing Tom Sawyer and Red Barchetta and YYZ. I'm just like, what is going on in the world? There's so many amazing.
I couldn't play any of that shit when I was 13.
Gender doesn't matter anymore. Age doesn't matter anymore. So when Chuck hired me, and I was like, and he was like, "So listen, you're pretty green. So I'm gonna hire another drummer, and we're gonna do." We're going to do the first bunch of months, we're going to do 2 drummers. And I'm like, I'm so mad. I'm just like, fuck, who the fuck do you think you are? You fucking piece of shit. Fuck you. You know what I mean? So mad. But I'm just, trying to balance. "Oh, okay, cool. No problem. So who else, what drummer?" And he's like, "Well, it's going to be Steve Gadd." And I was like, "Well, okay." I was like, "Great.
Can we start tomorrow?"
Yeah, when's the rehearsal? And of course, and it just was of course, I, Gadd and my father knew each other. My father Gadd used to go see my dad play a lot, and ended up taking over in Mangioni's band after, when Gadd kind of came to be when he got out of the army, I think is when he started playing with Chuck. And that was, my dad had left the band permanently at that time, but Gadd talks about my dad quite a lot. He loved him, and him and my mom knew each other through another whole thing, and so he was, I wouldn't say he was a family friend, but he was kind of a family friend a little bit. We didn't have dinners or whatever, but I had his phone number. You know what I mean? I didn't use it, but I could have.
You could.
So. And I had met him a few times. I had seen him play a few times and introduced myself, and he was always really super. He's the kindest person alive. And so I was jazzed. I was just beyond, because I knew this was who gets that experience to play drums with Gadd? It's there's only a few people ever who've done that.
Ever.
So I was just fucking beside myself.
Just kind of that shut up and listen.
Yeah, totally. Well,
mentality
yeah, and also there's a part of me that felt like I did belong, that like I deserved to be there. I didn't think I was on his level, certainly, but you know, it was me very meaningful. It was really, really one of the most meaningful things that ever happened to me. And he taught me so much. I was smart enough to pay attention to what he was doing. Thank God I was not so filled with ego at 20, what 22-year-old kid isn't, you know?
Right.
Thank God I had enough sense to really understand what was happening. And so I paid attention, and he taught me like a lot in a very short time. You know, he taught me a lot about being a professional, about being kind to people, about like I almost quit one night and he talked me off the ledge. I was like, "Fuck this motherfucker!" You know what I mean? After a gig, and he was just like, "Man, shut up,
trumpet playing asshole."
Yeah, just shut your fucking mouth and just be, you know, like." And he talked me down. You know what I mean? He talked me off the ledge, and you know,
Steve's worked with how many people? Like I'm sure
all of
he's come across
all of them
egotistical assholes in his career from time to time, and just had to be like, part of the gig, you know.
But also too, I think that I would have thought that like because of his pedigree and like we were talking about with Kind of Blue, like when someone is that heralded, people are gonna give you a wide berth. Dad could have probably fucking taken a shit on his drum stool and they'd been like, "Oh my God, that's great. Let's do another one." I'll tell this story. The first night we played, we did no rehearsals. It was just like show up and know these songs. And the first song we did was like this tune called Magna Carnival, which is like a standard, really, just like a, you know. And it was just like we're just gonna play it. Mm-hmm. And so he just counted it off, and
here we go.
I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but we're gonna do it, you know.
Yeah.
And we just and he says like 1, 2, 1, and I was like ding ding boom you know, and I'm just thinking like I'm with Gad, like I'm just gonna do that shit. I'm gonna do my Gad shit, you know. And I start playing this big ding ding boom boom boom, that kind of thing, you know. And I look at it, I'm smiling, I'm so happy. I looked over at him, and I don't know what he was gonna play, but he went just like this. He looked over at me and just went, "Okay." I just started quarter notes in the bass drum and 16ths on the hi-hat. Just like, and I went, "Oh my fucking God, I can't believe it." I just made the greatest drummer in the world. Like I relegated him to playing six. And the thing is he was psyched. He was like fucking into it. He was like, he didn't be like, "Man, I'm Steve Gadd, man, I'm gonna play this shit. Yeah. And you're gonna keep time, motherfucker, little man." Yeah. He was just like, "Cool, you got it? Great, I'm gonna do this."
How much am I making to play the 16th notes right?
He just fucking boom, you know, just like so easy. And he just went right to it and didn't even think twice, just was happy to do it. And I just remember going, "Oh no, what have I done?" Yeah. You know what I mean? And it just like without saying a fucking word, in 1 second, he changed my life forever. You know what I mean? We are both here, you know. Yeah. You know, without telling me, he just went, "We're both here, and you want to play that? That's great, man. I'm going to support you by doing this." Like, I like my job of being a drummer. Yeah.
So, real quick, man, where can we find your records, your book, your instructional videos, your My Masterclass stuff? Let's talk about all that real quick and let me know, you know, let's let the audience know.
My social media handle is Ruggiero Drums, which is my last name, and then the word drums. It's also my website, ruggierodrums.com. So, I'm like Facebook, Charles Ruggiero, I think, and then Instagram and Twitter are Ruggiero Drums. I don't really tweet that much. I do Instagram a lot, though.
We'll have links for all that down in the description as well.
Yes.
So make sure to check it out.
mymusicmasterclass.com is where my masterclasses live. I have a loop session at Loop Loft. It's a jazz. It's for people that want like authentic jazz without that's kind of hard shit to program. So loops are effective for that. My records are available on on iTunes and I'm on Spotify, and cdbaby.com is great. That means most of the money goes to me in that case. But whatever, man. You know what I mean? At this point, I got 5 records out. I put 2 out this last year. I'm getting ready to do another one. I just did one with Bob Reynolds that I also produced. Bob Reynolds, I think he does Bandcamp as well. And on my website, there's like links to my records and then their records and then the videos page. So really, RuggieroDrums.com, I think is pretty comprehensive in terms of like where you can find my stuff. I don't have the new masterclass linked yet, but the old masterclasses are. So even if you went to my, you can get to the new one that way too. But my music masterclass is pretty easy. My father wrote an incredible jazz vocabulary drum book. It's been sold worldwide. It's like it's the most amazing thing. It's all handwritten. It's not like machine copied. It's all handwritten stuff. This is not secondhand information. There's like Philly Joe Jones handwriting in that book, Max Roach's handwriting in that book, because he knew those guys and was tight with those guys and like came up with exercises and transcriptions and stuff that he did and brought it to them. And Philly Joe actually contributed a few pages in the book. His handwriting, because Philly Joe was living at our house when I was born, and they had like a little studio together, so they did some stuff, and it's like 250 pages of like the most elite level jazz drum shit there is in the world. You can buy it at vinniesbook.com. What we've done recently is you can buy the entire book. That's $75. You can buy it in 3 volumes. You can buy it you can buy 1, 2, or the third volume if you want. And
you guys just did a second edition, correct?
This is the second edition. The first edition was the size of the actual, because what he did was he took a manuscript book, which was 9 by 12, big, and he wrote the book by hand from front to back, and that was like this big, like 80 pages or whatever. So then he finished that book and he wrote another one, and then the third book was like loose leaf pages that he had done over the course of his teaching life. We broke it down into the original sort of pieces.
Awesome. So we'll have links to all this stuff in the description down below. The website is RuggieroDrums.com, RuggieroDrums.com. We'll have a link for that down below. We're going to wrap up our interview here. We're going to jump on the drum kit real quick, and Charles is actually going to show us a little bit of what he's all about, his phrasing, his musicality, style, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, man, I really...
Dude, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored, man. I'm honored. It was really super fun. It's always good to see you, man.
I know this is like the most we've been able to talk.
Yeah.
In, probably a year and a half or 2 years, man. So this has been great.
Yeah, awesome.
So jump on the drum kit. Thank you everybody for stopping by. Again, Hammerstone TV episode 2. My guest Charles Ruggiero. We'll see you on the next video.
Thanks for being here.
The chain